Greetings and welcome to the Wealth for Real YouTube channel. I'm your host, Christopher Anastasio. It's Wednesday, May 24th, 2023. And just want to come right back at you guys with the next portion of the series of videos that I wanted to make about this article in the New Yorker about the Getty family trust. You can see the article here that came out in January of this year, late January, Getty family trust issues. Like I said, I've made a couple of videos about this article already, and you can go ahead and check that out. I'm not going to really recap everything that it's about, but I've kind of been going through it section by section. First video was kind of macro level about the whole article. The last one was about the section that covered just sort of like the aggregation of significant wealth by wealthy families, like how they kind of, avoid taxes or try to avoid taxes, things like that. That was in the section prior to the one you're looking at here. But a couple of things I just wanted to highlight for you guys in this portion of the article. And it's a pretty long article, so I got several more videos coming on this. If you're interested in this, it's a bonanza for you. If you're not, just skip these and move on to the other videos on the channel here. So in this section, they start really talking about how the Getty family got wealthy, like where it all kind of came from. And right here, they mention family fortune began in 1903 when the couple from Minnesota, that's where they were at the time, George and Sarah, struck oil in Oklahoma. And it was so profitable that their son, J. Paul Getty, he ended up really being the name associated with the Getty family, John Paul Getty. But as the son, he became a millionaire at 23 due to the good fortune of his parents. Okay, so at that point, he announced his retirement. This is just really interesting anecdote for me as I contemplate, how does generational wealth get created? How can it be squandered? How do you incentivize a generation that may be coming into more assets and money than you had? How do you incentivize them to preserve it, to try to accumulate more, or to disincentivize them from just blowing it and being sort of aimless, right? So anyway, and forgive me guys while I eat my breakfast here. So at this point, you can see that Getty said, John Paul Getty said, there's no reason I should exert myself further. And he went ahead and he acquired a bunch of Hollywood friends like Charlie Chaplin, Gloria Swanson, etc. Right? So it says here, his parents disapproved. They eventually pulled him back into the business. So he returned to the family business. But when his dad died in 1930, the will, which had become about $15 million worth, all went to his mom. He wasn't left anything directly. It all went from the husband to the wife. He was upset about that. And so she made a formal offer to him to sell him her share of the company as a Christmas present. And it would expire if he didn't do anything by 30 December of, I guess, that year, 1930. But in addition to that, in addition to selling him her share, she actually went ahead and set up a spendthrift trust, which is the type of trust, and I'm not going to get this exactly right, guys, but it's a kind of trust where you can really control the access to the funds that your beneficiary is going to have. So it's really, it makes it very difficult, at least in an immediate sense, to squander the funds. But what's really interesting is that when this all happened, and you can see it in this paragraph here, Paul was insulted by the way this transaction had gone down, like his dad, the will, the whole thing. And it says here, he became thrifty to a certain compulsion and said that his attitude was, my dad is going to eat his words. So he put all his energy and profits back into the company and trust. His biggest bet was the oil prospects of the region between Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. And within 50 years, he'd grown the $15 million to $4 billion. Okay, so it'd grown like 1,000-fold. Okay, so really kind of interesting anecdote there. It says here, he vowed to create a Getty dynasty, more financial concept than familial speaking, because he had 5 divorces, 5 sons. He was distant from them. He didn't attend any of their weddings. And it wasn't even really known that he was like the richest American until in 1957, Fortune magazine, I think it was a magazine, crowned him as the richest American. And, he basically says here, I feel no qualms or reticence about likening the Getty Oil Company to an empire and myself to a Caesar. Okay. So anyway, they talked in here about how he was very parsimonious. He had like a payphone installed at his mansion so that guests would actually have to call out long distance without charging it to him. Oh, that was kind of funny there. This was pretty bad. It says here when his son Timmy was treated for a brain tumor, he didn't even visit his son. He complained that the doctors overcharged him because they'll overcharge a rich person 20 times more than regular. I mean, just really awful stuff. I mean, nothing to be tickled by. Just pretty bad stuff there. I mean, unconscionable for someone, with the mindset of family first. I can't imagine how anybody could feel that way in that situation, but that's how he felt. Talks about how his tactics of tax avoidance and undervaluing certain things that he sold, stuff like that, were so aggressive that President Kennedy leaked details of his taxes to Newsweek. I don't know how he did that. I guess he told the IRS to do that. His book, How to Be Rich, he talks about taxes being just completely wasteful and stuff like that. The real gem, quote unquote, in this section, and I know I had heard this story before, but I completely forgot about it, was his management of the tragedy in the early 1970s when his grandson, John Paul Getty III, was kidnapped in Rome, held for ransom. He wouldn't pay it. Okay, and that's the story that you kind of see here. He wouldn't pay it because he was like, well, if I pay it, they're going to kidnap my other grandchildren. Eventually, they cut the boy's ear off, sent it to Getty, and after some time, he relented and paid the minimum amount of money. You can see it right here. Well, I should say the maximum amount of money that advisors told him was tax deductible, $2.2 million. So it says here he made up the balance by loaning his son the money at 4% interest. So he gave the money to his son at a loan, 4%. So the son could pay for his son, Getty's grandson, to be released by these Calabrian gangsters. And then it just talks about here after he died, he still pretended to be a California resident even though he was living in England. The four factions of the family divvied up his trust into portions of $750 million apiece, paying a tax bill of $1 billion. So it sounds like, let's say that's 750 times 4, so $3 billion, right? About $3 billion. They paid a tax bill of $1 billion. And the lawyers likened the trust division to an elaborate treaty negotiation among warring nations. So just really, really kind of interesting, and in some sense quite disturbing details about Getty. I just didn't know much about Getty. I've been studying some of the other families. I've read a bit more about Rockefellers, Vanderbilts, stuff like that. I just kind of forgot about Getty. I mean, I just remember seeing the Getty oil sign when I was a kid, like a gas station or whatever. But just seeing this, and there's some movies that were made. I think actually there's a TV series called Trust that covers this incident with his grandson. And then there's a movie, I think Mark Wahlberg was in the movie, came out in 2020. I think it was like right around the pandemic time frame, like 1920, 21, somewhere in there. And it was called All the Money in the World. And it focused on Getty, and I believe this incident in particular with his grandson was kind of like the focal point of it. So anyway, guys, again, just a very fascinating article for me from the standpoint of the history of the Getty family, the machinations of extremely wealthy families in terms of tax avoidance and passing on their legacy, generational wealth, etc. And then fascinating in the sense that the article covers a current lawsuit going on within the family. I'm not going to go into detail on that now. That's in some of the other videos I made, and I will come back to that in future videos. But really great, like meaty article here. So I wanted to get this latest video out to you guys about this particular section on John Paul Getty's history, how he came into this empire and really exploded it outward into the Getty dynasty that he wanted to create. So thanks for watching this, guys. If you have any comments, would love to hear your thoughts on this whole situation or the generational wealth issue in general. And of course, if you haven't yet, please hit the subscribe button. Would definitely appreciate that as well. And we'll be back soon again with more videos, guys. Really appreciate you guys watching this.